So, Les, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure to be here.
Uh, Wanted to spend some time talking about specifically the article you wrote for Strategy in Business
Hmm.
about kind of a shift in consumer buying habits
Yeah.
and a new normal. If you could kind of walk us through what is this new normal?
Well, I think that the big thing is consumers have had a normal set of habits that they've grown accustomed to over time, right? So they know they're going to eat out Sunday nights. They're going to go to the local Texas Roadhouse, and then maybe they'll rotate across a set of markets. As their incomes have been depressed due to the current recession, and they have more doubts about how much income they'll have in the future, they've had to come back and look at all of their behaviors and say, what am I going to do to save money going forward, right? And that's caused them to fundamentally look at the types of products they buy. So instead of going out to eat, they might be cooking at home. Now, the important thing about this is that it means that they don't just go from Texas Roadhouse to McDonald's, though a lot of people are doing that, right? It also means that they're going to cooking at home, right, which is a completely different price proposition than what they were at before, right? So that option provides them significantly more value. Well, I always like to think of it as like trading across. So if you think of trading down, it might be I go from Boston Market to Panera Bread because the price of an entree is less at Panera, right? This is I go from Boston Market to, Campbell's soup, green bean casserole, or something like that. And so if I were one of those chains and I lowered my prices by 20%, it's not going to make any difference, right? People are still going to trade out of my category completely, trade across into a different usage occasion. So this is good news for consumers, for companies and retailers if they can offer products that offer consumers fundamentally better value propositions that are sort of in fundamentally different categories from where they used to purchase before. Well, there's a set of things. Of course, everybody's working on their price image, et cetera, and we've talked about that. But I think retailers have to have a pretty good sense of what their value proposition is and then how they're going to take advantage of that. So, if you're Walmart and Costco, I think in some ways I think it's relatively straightforward. They're high value options, and it's easy to take advantage of that and get consumers to come shop with you. If you're a convenience store chain and people are worried about how much they drive, et cetera, your option might not be as much lowering prices per se, but trying to get people to have purchase more and giving them incentives to purchase more and making that cost efficient for them when they look at their total travel time and gas costs and a set of things like that. So you have to look at sort of consumers are going to be ruthlessly efficient in the way they spend their money these days, and can I change my total value proposition to make that work? An interesting example I talked about in the article, if I'm Starbucks and I'm a premium price cup of coffee, that certainly is a tough business to be in at the moment, as we can see. On the other hand, they have a grocery store product, a grocery store brand. People are eating more at home. That ought to be a real opportunity for them. And so I think taking advantage of things like that, where you can get your brand into alternate formats and alternate value propositions, is a really good idea. So I think, one of the things, if you think about things I can do as a retailer to take advantage of this trading across phenomenon, is that another thing that's happening is consumers are going to spend a lot more time at home. In fact, we just did a survey for what consumer behavior is going to be like going forward in the economy. They're spending more time at home already, but it's the number one thing they'll do going forward is spend even more time at home. I think in that environment, obviously they're watching more TV. They're going to be on the internet more as well. And so I think in that environment, it's a good time to be marketing in that place also. So to the extent that that's a cost-efficient environment, you can offer people good value. You can offer a chance for people to shop and find out what's a good value for them. I think that's really important. So on this trading across thing, it may not be the cheapest product, but it might be a medium priced product that offers me the right set of trade-offs. And if you're the purveyor of that information, that could be really useful. So I think for retailers, as you think about, I'm in a format today that has a certain value proposition to consumers, one way to fundamentally change that value format is to go offline, provide people information, take some cost out of the system, and see if I can't have a large impact on my value equation for consumers that way as well. An inferior product has an economic definition, not what we would think of as consumers, an inferior product being one that's not as good. An inferior product in economics is a product that I purchase more of as I have lower income. And that's this whole sort of trading across phenomenon that we're talking about. So as my income goes down, I might still buy branded products and have a sort of branded proposition, but instead I'll eat at home, or I will used premium dishwashing detergent but wash dishes by hand, which may be a bad example, but I think the kind of thing that we're talking about here. So as people's income goes down, they're going to consume more of some specific categories, and that's what we're talking about. Within that category, they may well choose branded or premium products. Well, first of all, they can just look at their sales today and make a decision. But you know, if you look in the grocery store today, for instance, a lot of the high value added categories on the outside of this shelf, you know, fresh produce and prefixed meals are going, prepared meals are going down. In the center of the store and stuff that people do at home are going up. Right. So I think one thing to do is sort of look at your sales trends today. I'm sure you'll see stuff, and then bring this lens to it and say, well, what is it that consumers are doing with this product that gives them a fundamentally better value proposition? You know, I think the private label phenomenon is a real trend. I'm sure there will be growth in that. But to be clear, I think branded manufacturers are very good at managing that problem, and they know how to manage the price gaps and take care of that. So the real thing is, how do I find, you know, a different twist on this to make it work? Maybe a good example is if you take automobiles, right? Consumers are going to trade down to more fuel efficient and less costly cars. But you know, the Prius is a great example of sort of changing the whole dynamic. So I take a car and make it energy efficient and green. It is lower cost, but it's also fundamentally a better experience. If I'm a movie star, I don't need to drive a Hummer anymore, I can drive a Prius. And that's the kind of impact you want to create, because over time you can get people associated with your brands and move things ahead. So for instance, if I were an appliance retailer, I think a lot about cost-efficient green products that I could roll out and say something about that would allow me to hit some lower price points. It would provide a lot of differentiation and value and have a much better feel to consumers.